Continuing on from the brainstorming, we're going to go ahead and move into a short exercise that I want to move forward with you on and have you follow along and give your own input, your own feedback, even if you want to drop some in the comments below. Because before I write any copy for a seller or before I start targeting a specific type of seller, I want to try my best to understand what's going on inside of their head. And I believe a brainstorming exercise is the best way to do that. So, pull out a pen and paper, start doing this. I'm going to give you some guidance here. I'm not going to do the complete and total process for you, but I'm going to start asking you some questions to start getting your brain wrapped around this seller. And by doing this, you will significantly improve your communications with the seller while you're at their house or on the phone with them, because you've already worked your way through a lot of the issues that you may encounter doing this. So, what objections may the seller have? So, I'm trying to write a marketing piece or I'm trying to call a seller to get this done. What objections may they have? I owe more than my home is worth. You see that all the time. So if I'm sending out a letter to somebody and I'm saying the same thing that everybody else says, and I say something along the lines of, hey, I'll buy your house for cash, I'll do this, I'll do that, and they've already called up a half a dozen of these people and none of these people knew what short sales were. So if you do not know what a short sale is, make sure you check out Melody Medley's class here in the Academy. But a short sale is the opportunity to purchase a property for less than what it's owed. So if this person owes owes more than what their house is worth, and I'm sending them a letter that looks just like everybody else's, and I don't address the objection of, well, I owe more than my house is worth, that seller may never call me. But if I make sure that that seller is aware in that marketing piece that I can purchase that property, even if they owe more than what it's worth, I might get that seller to call me. So any objection you can handle in your marketing letters is going to drastically improve your response rate. The next one we're going to have is, I don't have anywhere to move. This is a very common fact. I'm not going to say very rarely, but I'd say at least 8 to 9 out of 10 times the seller has nowhere to move. 1, maybe 2 out of 10 has already moved on and decided they're just going to let the house go. But most of the ones that I've reached out with and contacted and worked with were still residents that needed to figure out where they were going to move. If you help them get through this objection in your marketing piece, when you're on the phone, door knocking, cold calling, sending direct mail, whatever it might be, how are we going to address them having nowhere to move? Well, sir, ma'am, I might be able to help you locate a new property. I might be able to do this. I might be able to do that. Help them get through this struggle, because what I have found, and as I mentioned in previous videos, is that people moving into foreclosure, I consider them to just be ostriches. They kind of get overwhelmed with the problems. They get overwhelmed with what's going on, and instead of addressing the issues, they start pulling away and ignore the problem. If you can help resolve problems for these people, you will be successful in this business. You just need to figure out what their problem is and help them address it. And one of them is, I have nowhere to move. I don't want to move. I don't have anybody to help me move. I don't have money to move. So all different types of things that you can be thinking of. Here's another objection I got quite often. I'm just going to let the bank take it. I'm just going to sit here, ride this out, and let the bank take it. That's good for me because the seller has already came to the terms of their house is going to be gone. It's gone. They're okay with that. Now we could possibly work this to where, all right, you're ready to let the bank just take it. But if there was a way that I could structure the purchase of this property to not only allow you to walk away from it, but allow you to walk away from it with some money and protecting the little bit of credit you have left, if I'm able to do that, would you be willing to work with me and possibly even buy you more time in the home if you need it? So there's different ways of talking about this, structuring it, putting it into paper. Just try to be natural with what you're saying. Try not to be too robotic. Don't let your lack of experience hinder you in this though. Just understand that you may not be perfect the first time, the second time, or the 10th time, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at this. And we'll see about trying to get some pre-recorded cold calls into the Academy so you can start seeing how other people that are pros in this business are making those phone calls for you. Here's another one. Another objection that I might see quite often, and that is, I already have it resolved. That is, from my experience, more often than not, a way for them to close the door as fast as they possibly can because they're embarrassed. They don't like the fact that you know what's going on. They don't want to be talking about this publicly. They're embarrassed. And the easiest way for them to defer the conversation is to say, I've already got it resolved. If you end up in one of those types of situations, you're going to need to press further and say, well, how did you get this resolved? What are you planning on doing? And then you'll find out that the further you dig into this, the higher the probability is that that was just an excuse to try to defer the conversation. So if you can overcome this, brainstorm it, think about all the things that these people might be trying to use to not work with you. And if you can figure out what those are, that'll better increase your chances when working directly with the seller, either through phone, direct face-to-face conversations, through your marketing pieces by knowing what to say and how to overcome these objections, all critical pieces to think about when you're putting together some marketing. So those are some of the objections that we may have incurred from our sellers. Let's look at some of the things that they may want. Step number one, which is quite often, one of the things that everybody wants, and that is more money. We might be able to help them get more money through creative structuring, creative financing, through homeowner or owner financing, through short sales, through subject to purchasing, through wrap mortgages, through all different kinds of just traditional cash purchases. There's a lot of creative ways that we can get through this, and we've actually got a video at the end of this course called Advanced Strategies. Please don't skip ahead just to go watch that. But it will detail some of the more creative things that we might be able to do to put these homeowners in better positions. But one of the things that they're normally going to want is money. It's not always the motivating factor. It's not always the reason why they are talking to you, but money will almost always play a part of what is going to go through their mind. Number two, which tends to be what I see more often whenever I find the homeowner still in the house this late into the foreclosure process, is they don't have anywhere to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. You may need to help them through this. Hey, do you have an uncle, brother, cousin, sister, friend that you might be able to partner with for a couple of months to get you back on the feet? Is there an option for, maybe you do have a job, you can just no longer afford the house you're already in. Maybe I can help you secure a place to rent, help you get a little bit of equity out of your home so you can go out and buy a mobile home or something like that. So there's options that you just need to get creative with to help these people move through what they want, and you help them get that, and you'll almost always get the deal if you're able to solve what they need. Another one that I'll find quite a bit is people are just not ready to let go of the house. One particular scenario was an appointment I went on. The mother did not want her daughter to have to leave high school when she graduated, or not when she graduated, but she was about 4 months away from her daughter graduating high school. And if she could no longer live there, she may have been stuck in a situation where her daughter would have to leave that school. And that was her biggest fear. That was the problem that needed to be resolved. So if we were able to find a structure that allowed that homeowner to stay there until the daughter graduated, she didn't care what happened. The money didn't matter, a place to go didn't matter. The only thing that mattered to her is her daughter walking across that stage at that same high school. So maybe we could have structured a purchase agreement where we said something along the lines of, we'll give you a lease back on the property, we'll purchase it and lease it back to you for the next 4 months. That'll give your time for their daughter to graduate, and then we can move on to a different place. If you can find ways to offer structure like that, homeowners will start to work with you more often. Another one is protecting their credit. Many homeowners that I have found are to the point they don't care about their credit anymore. But every once in a while you'll get a hold of somebody that the foreclosure is fairly fresh, or the foreclosure process is fairly fresh, and they're not way behind and delinquent on payments. One instance that I can clearly remember is there was a state trooper that was headed towards foreclosure, and from what I had found out through this process is that state troopers have their credit pulled regularly by their employers, because nobody wants a cop out on the streets that's having financial troubles. So if they're in a bad financial position, it might not be good to have them patrolling the streets. At least that's how it was told to me by the state trooper that I'd spoke to. He wanted to get this resolved very rapidly so it didn't affect his credit, so it didn't affect his employment. Employment does sometimes come into play when we're looking at people's credit, which might be a motivating factor. So things to think about. Another one is, and this might sound however it may sound, but sometimes these people just are looking for someone to help them. They've tried to figure it out on their own. They're stressed. They don't know what to do. They're overwhelmed with emotion, with current social issues, family issues, divorce issues, whatever it may end up being. These people are having problems. And if you can figure it out on how to address and solve these problems, that is giving them a help that you may not realize they need. So many times I've sat down on a couch with a seller that was sitting there just crying because they could not figure out what to do. They felt helpless. They felt just abandoned. And if you're able to figure out what to do to help these people move forward, they will be pleased to work with you. And if you make sure that your intentions are to help them and not to make your money bigger, fatter, whatever else you want to call it, help these people, and I promise you the reward will be paid back tenfold. So that's what I'm going to end this on, and I'm not going to answer this one for you because this is something that you need to think about. This is something that you need to drill in and you really need to connect with, and that is, what can I do to help these people? And once you have that figured out, that'll help you through talking through them, because you're going to come from a mindset of how do I help these people versus a mindset of how do I get the money from these people. If you change your mindset, the money will follow. So go out there and figure out how to help them. Granted, this is a business. You do have to make money. But your intention should be first to make sure that people are being taken care of morally and ethically, and then B, you're making the money. And at least that's my opinion when we're coming to the foreclosures. That doesn't mean go out there and work for free. You deserve to be paid for what you're doing, but don't go out there trying to intentionally rip people off. So all that to be said, have a wonderful day, and we're going to move on to the next class.